and welcome to the Green Dream video series. I'm Natalie Kenway, Global Head of ESG Insights at ESG Clarity. And today I'm speaking to Shami Nissan, Head of Sustainability at Actis. Thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Hi Natalie, good to be here.
The energy transition is extremely important for the sustainability of the planet, but we have seen limited progress here. Why is that?
Climate change is a really large, urgent and complicated problem. And whilst it's been understood by scientists for a long time, the rest of the global community has taken, I think, a little bit longer to really understand the gravity of the issue. And it's only in recent years that it's really gained sufficient sort of prominence, if you like, in the public mindset. And we've had, accusations of it being a hoax, etc. So I think all of that has served to delay what we now really understand needs to happen, which is that we need a very rapid whole economy transition. That means every industry and every sector of the economy needs to transition if we are to reach the goal of no greater than a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase. And we are really behind the curve and we don't have much time left in terms of achieving that. And that's why we're seeing now quite a rapid acceleration in terms of column inches and airtime and lots of announcements about net zero, both by corporates, but by nation states as well. So we're definitely seeing, a higher intensity of interest and rhetoric about the transition, but we still have a long way to go if we're going to achieve it.
Oh, absolutely. And what role does natural gas play in the energy transition?
So natural gas is a fossil fuel, but it's obviously a much lower carbon intensity than coal. And for the foreseeable future, gas has a role in the energy mix in many countries and markets and is a necessary part of the transition. It doesn't necessarily have anything like a significant role in a net zero global economy, but during the transition, absolutely natural gas has an important role. Why? Because in many markets, it's not possible to just flick a switch and transfer to renewable sources of power. The infrastructure is not there at the scale that's needed. The stability of the national grids is not such that they can provide the quantum of power that's necessary. And we also have the issue of intermittency, which is that, when the wind is not blowing, the turbines won't work. And when the sun is not shining, the solar panels don't work. So you need baseload power to see yourself through those times. And gas has a critical role to play in providing that baseload power so that there is security of supply. Without it, in some markets, it would lead to blackouts, in areas where you already have issues around access to electricity and energy poverty. So gas has a critical role to play, in particular, if it's displacing higher carbon intensity sources of fuel.
Okay, and what is your outlook for the natural gas sector from an investment perspective?
So, I think, as I was saying, I think because there is a role for gas in certain circumstances, I think investors should continue to be very careful about how they make investment decisions vis-a-vis gas, of course. And Actis has worked on what we call a transition tool, which does exactly that. So it ensures that we are asking exactly the right questions at investment decision-making time to ensure that we are investing into assets that are resilient, that are future-proofed, that have a role in the transition, but that can be perhaps repurposed or made to be better aligned with the Paris targets during our time as an active owner. So there are many things that one can do during your time owning an asset as an active owner. So that's what we set about to do. So we ask a lot of questions at the beginning to understand, whether the gas asset is displacing, for example, coal or heavy fuel oil, how it maps to the energy policy of the country, whether there are any other technologically feasible and commercially viable alternatives, what the role of that asset is vis-a-vis the power that it provides to the grid. In lesser developed countries, there's a high correlation between power generated and GDP growth. So we know that increase in power is going to track closely to economic development. So there's a really large role for gas to play in terms of supporting economic growth and also just developmental impact.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like engagement is very much key when you're investing in this sector. And we have COP26 coming up. I think obviously people will be talking about fossil fuels and the role of the financial industry. What are your expectations from COP26 around those topics?
I mean, I think COP26 will be a little bit of a linchpin. Obviously, it will bring together a lot of updated NDCs from all the participating countries. It's going to catalyze a slew of net zero commitments. And it will, of course, increase the kind of intensity of the global narrative around climate change and the transition. All of those good things will happen. However, will it really kind of galvanize sufficient global political will for us to accelerate the transition? I mean, I'm hopeful, but I think we need to be a bit somber about that, because one of the goals of COP26, for example, was that the participating countries would contribute to a climate fund of $100 billion. That's per annum, for example. And here we are several weeks away from COP and we still haven't hit that number. So that tells you something about the will, and whether or not we're going to really hit the ground running with this conference. But I think, I'm optimistic about some aspects of it. Others, I think we still need to see much more action, not rhetoric, from the key players.
So I agree. We're hoping for a lot more positive announcements, but yeah, action is where the emphasis should be. Okay, we always end the Green Dream with this question. What is your favourite sustainable drink or snack?
That's a great question. Well, it's not healthy, I suppose. So I don't know if you'd even exclude that on the grounds of sustainability. I really like what that brand, the chocolate brand Tony's Chocolonely, does with its marketing, the way that they source the products, make the products, and the wrapping. I love the fact that the chocolate bars are made of higgledy-piggledy chunks rather than perfect squares. And we had one recently and both of my children were intrigued by that. And it led to a really great conversation, which is, about inequality, including in the chocolate supply chain, and that this was a really easy, visual, symbolic way to represent that. So I really appreciated that. I thought that was a really clever thing that they've done.
It's a really good way of making it relatable to children. I can totally see that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you, Natalie, for having me. Thank you.